Hi there everybody, this is David, and you all know that I love some RPGs. I've been playing them for about 40 or so years now straight, all the way from the NES up to present day. And I've covered a ton of RPGs here on the channel, but people always seem to ask me, what are your favorites? Out of all these games, from the NES, from the 80s up to present day, what are your favorite ones? So today I'm going to be going over my 30 best RPGs of all time. And I definitely do think that's worth the sub, is you come and you join a party and you level on up with me. Thank you so much for your sub, your like, and your hype. It helps me out a ton. And now let's go ahead and start going over some of these great, fantastic RPGs. First up at number 30, the Shadow Hearts Trilogy. Yeah, we're actually not getting 30 games here, we're getting more, because I'm including trilogies, duologies, and things like that. But anyway, it's totally amazing what happens whenever an RPG gives you a protagonist that is not a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed teeny bopper. Yuri here is the total opposite. He's not winning anything with the power of friendships, instead, he's winning through demonic possession and devilry. And while the first two games do star Yuri, the third is more of like a spin-off, taking place in America in the 1920s, while the first two take place in Eurasia on the eve of World War I. And I love games that take place in the real world, and these all star a cast of wacky characters. Something that I think a lot of people actually get wrong about this series is that they think that it's all horror. And well, yeah, there is a small element of that. For the most part, it's a lot more humorous than anything else. I mean, even though it features a dark cast of characters, from demons to vampires to even Rasputin, this is still one of the funniest game series that I've ever played. With turn-based combat and the Judgment Ring twist, you'd be shocked at how good of a series this RPG is. Number 29, Romancing Saga: Revenge of the Seven. This here is a remake of Romancing Saga 2, which originally released in Japan only for the SNES. And this remake just knocked my frickin' socks off. This threw away all the jankiness of the original game, but it kept the heart and the spirit of it all with the storyline, locations, and characters. Well, pretty much just, rewriting everything else. Saga, as we all know, has a reputation for being a bit unwieldy, a bit obtuse, and very hard to get into. But no longer! Nothing is a mystery anymore. This tells you where to go, what to do, who to talk to, and how to move the storyline along. There's no more wandering around endlessly like a chicken with your head cut off, wondering what to do to move on. And it also explicitly shows you how to glimmer new techniques. With the new TP system, you're also explicitly shown how your actions in battle affect your character growths. All the guesswork is taken out of it, and now you're shown all the rewards for your hard work. So they took a rather obtuse game, and they elevated it into one of the best RPGs ever made. Number 28, The Legend of Legaia. While this here is still unfortunately languishing only on the original PlayStation, it's still one of the most unique RPGs that I've ever played. It combines aspects of fighting games with turn-based RPG mechanics, and your heroes are able to input special moves or arts, just as you would perform them a special move in Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. And as you level up, you're able to input longer combinations and inflict more attacks. The magic system is really unique too. It's kind of like a cross between Blue Magic and Pokemon. Basically, your characters get these special raw Serus, and they can equip them and they can talk to them and all that kind of stuff, but more importantly, they have the ability to absorb monsters or Seru's magical spells. And to add to that fighting game feeling, every time that you equip a new weapon or armor, they actually appear on your character model. The storyline involves mist engulfing the world, so people live in these cloistered, walled-off cities, and it's up to you to save the land. Number 27, Lost Odyssey. This game is so frickin' good. This is what Final Fantasy XIII should have been. A gorgeous turn-based game featuring actual towns that you can explore, a real-world map, tons of secrets, and mature storytelling. Not just a hallway simulator. Yeah, I said what I said. You play as Kain, an immortal who has lived for thousands of years, but has also forgotten much of his past. But over the course of the game, he not only rediscovers and reunites with his family, but he also slowly regains his memories with 1,000 Years of Dreams, which are kind of short stories that delve into themes of grief, memory, and the fleeting nature of human life. The gameplay is traditional JRPG fare, but its emotional core is distinctly adult, offering reflections on love, loss, and the weight of time. Kaim's journey is less about saving the world, and more about kind of like rediscovering his humanity, which is definitely a really poignant take on the meaning of life from somebody who literally can't die. Number 26, EarthBound. This here could very well be one of the most influential games of all time, and it's definitely ahead of its time as well. When it was first released, it was pretty much universally lambasted, and it ended up selling in the bargain bin for like $10. And I, as you all know, am a huge RPG guy, and I always have been, yet even at the time, I didn't want the game either. It said that it stunk, and I believed it, and I thought the artwork was ugly. But we ended up getting it because my brother, he wanted it, and he was, saying how weird it was, and he's weird anyway, so we got it. And the rest is history. I grew to adore this game. It's one of the first RPGs to ever take place in the real world, and it stars, normal, average, everyday kids fighting against normal, average, everyday things like hippies, or cars, or street signs, or insane cultists. Every single time that I play it, it brings me back to my childhood, and judging by all the EarthBound clones that I see on Steam all the time, I cannot be the only one that waxes nostalgic on it either. Number 25, Golden Sun 1 and 2. Camelot's masterpiece duology definitely deserves a spot on this list. These two games were the crown jewels of the port-heavy Game Boy Advance, and if you're a fan of turn-based RPGs with class systems and puzzle mechanics, then look no further than this. Here you have all the best aspects of RPGs of old, with a glorious world map, tons of hidden treasures and areas, and puzzle-based dungeons where you can actually use your magic or your synergy in order to solve those puzzles. You'll be freezing puzzles to create ice pillars, using fires to melt them, or casting spells to make ivy grow, catching objects in trees, or moving pillars all over the place. Then, to make it even better, Golden Sun 2 is the direct sequel to the first game, picking up immediately where the first one left off. So you get two great, solid, epic RPGs in this recommendation. Number 24, the Trails in the Sky remake. As you all know, I am a huge fan of the Trails series. I have been since the original game came out back in 2010 for the PSP, but this remake here is one for the record books. They took the land of Liberl and they recreated it from the ground up, so that it fits seamlessly in with the modern games. And I dare say, it looks even better than the modern games. I've gotta say, it looks better than Trails Beyond the Horizon, if I do say so myself. It's absolutely gorgeous, and all the characters that you know and love are fully voiced. And they definitely added in quite a bit of challenge too. This is not a dumbed down remake at all. They've also added in a whole bunch of quality of life features that were not in the original game either, and they spiced up that combat too. So if you've been wondering, how do I get into this series? Right here, this is your entry point. You can start right here at the very beginning and witness one of the best stories ever told. Number 23, the Suikoden 1 and 2 Collection. Gotta say, the first game, yeah, it's kind of basic, and it's really just there to serve as a warm-up for the second game, which is one of the best games ever made, because that is a tragic tale of friendship turned rivalry, as you follow Ryu and his best friend Joey as they find themselves on opposing sides of a civil war that tests their loyalty, friendship, and ideology. Suikoden is great because it always balances political intrigue with personal tragedy. It also has turn-based combat, 108 recruitable characters who each have their own personality, as well as their own diverse perspective on loyalty, ambition, or peace. You would be remiss if you thought that the storytelling shied away from the brutality of war or the pain of betrayal, because Suikoden does not do that. This is not baby's first RPG. This is an RPG for an adult, and it puts you on the front row seat, and it forces you to make the decisions on who lives and who dies. Will you run away from it all and just live in a cabin in the woods? Will you kill your own best friend? And will your dear sister survive the war too? The conflicting vision of peace will lead you down a darker, morally ambiguous path because ain't nothing clear in these games. Number 22, Visions of Mana. I adore the Mana series. It is one of my favorites, and it's Square Enix's flagship action RPG series after all. No matter how much they want to make Final Fantasy into an action RPG, this here is the GOAT. I've been playing this series ever since Final Fantasy Adventure back on the Game Boy, and Visions of Mana is a true blue entry which single-handedly revived the series. With multiple characters to choose from, each with their own unique fighting styles, the elemental spirits, who not only come with you and they help you do the magical spells and all that kind of stuff, but they also help you traverse and explore the world in unique ways, and they allow you to class change. Not only that, there's massive open areas to explore that are just absolutely gorgeous, and voice acting that, doesn't sound like nails on a chalkboard. This thing here is the real deal. Square Enix has been going back to the basics lately, and they finally found what works, and I applaud them for that. Number 21, Octopath Traveler 0. I thoroughly enjoy all the games of the Octopath series, and I've really just got to say, each one of them is better than the last. 1 set the standard for the series, 2 refined it, and 0 just propelled it completely out of the water. No longer are you just following 8 separate character stories, instead you are one main protagonist, and you're following multiple villains' story arcs, while still collecting well over 30 characters into your party and going all over Orstera. This here is a prequel to the first game in the series, and while the other 2 games may have felt a little bit stale with only 8 character job classes, here, every single character is completely unique and has their own unique playstyle and their own storyline. The battle system is intuitive and it's fun as you break your opponents down and then boost your attacks to blast them away. Number 20, Hexyz Force. The PSP seemed to fly under the radar in general, but this here is easily one of the best RPGs on the entire system. You'll be choosing from one of 2 protagonists at the start, each with completely different parties, motivations, and storylines. You will meet up throughout the game, but you'll never really join forces, and I just love this mechanic. I wish that more games used it. It really feels like you're playing 2 games in one. The story's encompassing, because you inhabit the planet of Norvia, whose orbit is locked to the sun, and the people on each side of the planet also worship different goddesses. On the light side, they worship the goddess of creation. On the dark, destruction. And as you play through the game, every little thing that you do will cause the balance of the world to shift towards either creation or destruction. And this unique mechanic then causes further changes in the game's content, culminating with multiple endings for each of the 2 protagonists. This here is a hidden gem with a ton of replay value, and I just love it. Number 19, Skies of Arcadia. Gosh, what a gem this thing is. Following the adventures of Vice the Sky Pirate and his 2 little girly friends, here you're given an airship right from the get-go, not halfway through the game, and you're just kind of told to head out and explore all the floating continents among the clouds. The world is your oyster, because it's like a blank slate, and it's up to you to go out there and discover it, and chart it, and claim it for yourselves. There's always something to do here. You could just kind of follow the main storyline, or you can go off the beaten path, and you can look for those world treasures and discoveries. You can find all sorts of people that you can recruit and take them back to your home base, or in this case, which is your airship. It's kind of like a Suikoden game in that matter. Or you can even just scout those cute little moonfish that are scattered about. Each continent is governed by its own moon, ensuring that it has all sorts of different wildlife and different biomes, so nothing ever feels stale, and a new discovery awaits around every corner. It is such a grand adventure. Number 18, God. Growth and Devolution, heed the call to awaken. This is such a frickin' fantastic hidden gem, I can't even stand it. Even though it was never released in the West, it does have a translation patch available. And I loved it so much that I even Let's Played the whole frickin' thing on my channel many years ago. God takes place in the real world after an alien invasion. They attacked and they devastated the land, and the vast majority of humanity is now living in hiding. Some countries, like, America, decided to ally themselves with the aliens, while the rest of them is out kind of fighting against the aliens or just hiding away in the jungles. With gorgeous graphics, a compelling storyline, real-world locations and countries to visit, and an innovative growth system, you're going to have tons of fun here, but it's also really obvious why it was never released in the West. I mean, not only are the Americans traitors to all humanity, but it also features underage sex that's out of wedlock, as well as the premature death of the expectant mother, so do be prepared for that. This is kind of like EarthBound, but if Gygus won. Number 17, Star Ocean 2 HD 2D Remake. Star Ocean the second story was my first introduction to this series back on the PlayStation 1, and boy, what a great place to start that was. This features dual protagonists, over 80 different endings, multiple planets to explore, and tons of different party members to recruit, depending not only on who you choose as your hero, but also what choices you make over the course of the game. I always love it whenever games have choices that actually matter. And then there's also, tons of replay value too. And while the original was a classic back then, this remake really takes it up a notch with a ton of quality of life improvements, great voice acting, graphics, and streamlined combat. This here is definitely the definitive way to play this classic. And speaking of definitive editions, we have number 16, Tales of Vesperia, Definitive Edition. This here could very well be my favorite Tales game of all time. It has a world map, hidden areas on the world map, treasures, all sorts of really cool areas to explore, and a really fun group of characters to get to know, as well as a progression system straight out of Final Fantasy IX, where the equipment that you have dictates your skills. But the best part about it all is the adult storyline that doesn't treat you like an absolute moron. This stars Yuri, a take-no-prisoners murderous bitch on wheels. I don't know what it is about the name Yuri with murderous people, but hey, I'll take it. He's grown disillusioned with injustice, and he decides to take matters into his own hands by diving headfirst into the world's corruption, by quite literally killing everybody who deserves it. The combat is fast-paced, and action just kind of like Star Ocean, and if you've never played a Tales game before, then this here is a great entry point for you. Number 15, Grandia 1 and 2 Collection. What can I say about Grandia that I haven't said before? I love both of these games. Too bad that the third one just crashed and burned. That one sucked. But that's neither here nor there, because the best two games here are bundled together. And the first game tells an endearing story of the friendship between Justin and Sue, as well as the blossoming love between him and Fina as they go off to become adventurers and explore beyond the end of the world. The second game is even more humorous than the first, as it stars Ryudo, a take-no-prisoners geohound who only really cares about one thing: money! Well, then again, he also cares about tits and ass and sex, and he's pretty selfish too, which conflicts hysterically with the selfless priestess Elena, who's also ironically possessed by the devil himself, Valimar. So she kind of turned the sexy bitch Millennia at the drop of a hat, and Ryudo loves that, but it's just a really funny story. Both of these games are classics, and they're definitely worth a playthrough or two. Number 14, Breath of Fire 3 and 4. Both of these games are superb in their own way. They both feature a unique graphical style, with the third having these bright, cheery graphics, and the fourth featuring more of a pastel, earthy tone direction. But together, they introduce some really neat features, like the Master System, and learning enemy abilities in combat. I love the cool Dragon Gene system of the third game, along with its upbeat, jazzy, boppin' music. But the fourth game personally stole my heart, where the story is split between Ryu and Folu, and it's revamped combat system where you have all 6 of your party members in battle at the same time, and you can swap them out whenever you want to, and there's also this magical combo system too. It's pretty cool. I just wish that the series wasn't completely dead in the water at this point. We definitely need a Breath of Fire Collection, or, even better, a sequel, a true Breath of Fire 6, not some mobile trash. Number 13, Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology. Best game on the DS and 3DS, am I right? People have been clamoring for a sequel to Chrono Trigger ever since that game first came out back in the 90s, but besides that, I think that this here is the next best thing. It features this riveting story about climate change, but kind of like those choose-your-own-adventure books, you can go down these various paths to see how your choices affect the future, or if they just lead to a dead end, or death, or a game over. But because you control the flow of time, you can constantly switch your timelines at a moment's notice, so you're always on the edge of your seat, seeing what's going to happen next, and you're never at a loss for what to do either, as the timeline system kind of guides you along pretty nicely and easily. The battle system is top notch, and it won't ever feel stale because of the really cool grid-based maps and the trap system. Trust me, you will not regret your time with this one. Number 12, Lufia 2, Rise of the Sinistrals. This is a game that did everything right. Classic RPGs are so beautiful in their simplicity, so why does it feel like developers today just can't figure it out? On the surface, this looks like another cookie-cutter RPG with turn-based battles and a town, dungeon, town progression system. And while that is true, there is so much more beneath the surface. The story is absolutely tragic, and it will stay with you, as Maxim is content living his life in a small town with his girlfriend Tia. But as the hero of the village, he quickly sets off to discover his own fate. The gameplay combines turn-based combat along with puzzle-laden dungeons. Before Lufia 2 came out, puzzles and RPGs were a real novelty. They maybe happened like once in the entire game. But this changed the gaming landscape forever, and it made me and countless other fans look at exploration in a whole new light. Dungeons were no longer just something to survive. Now you had to be mentally prepared for them too. Number 11, Final Fantasy VI. It's kind of funny how sometimes your opinions really do change about games. When I was a kid, I preferred Final Fantasy IV over Final Fantasy VI because I just kind of like those defined classes. And if you watch some of my earlier videos from many years ago, you will see that I did not have the highest opinion of 6. But the older I get, and the more that I discuss it, and the more that I play it, the more that I've really come to appreciate it. I think that the thing was holding me back the most about it was that this was the game that introduced the whole everyone can do everything thing that the Final Fantasy series has really embraced since. But at the end of the day, this here is an absolutely gorgeous game, filled to the brim with secrets, lovable characters, and probably like the best villain in the entire series. And all that optional bonus content in the World of Ruin really just pushed this over into masterpiece territory. And now we've hit the top 10 with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This here is an absolute gem, and it delivered on the hype and it exceeded my expectations. This game takes all the great features of the first game, drops a lot of the questionable elements from the second game, and adds some quality of life features, as well as telling a gripping storyline involving countries locked in a never-ending war with characters who also face an inevitable death. Everybody here is likable, relatable, and endearing, with hardly any annoying anime tropes. And more importantly, the world is just absolutely massive. It is full of hidden nooks and crannies to explore. The combat takes everything that worked in the previous entries, builds up upon that, and then also introduces some new mechanics that make the most fun out of the entire series. I love this game, and I cannot wait for a new entry on the Switch too. Number 9, Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. I'm just going to say what everybody here is thinking. This here is the best tactical RPG ever made. Nothing before or since has even come close to this masterpiece. And while I am sure that, yeah, some modern gamers might be turned off by the difficulty spikes here and there, if you can get past that, you are sure to find one of the best games ever made, and probably even like the best Final Fantasy game ever made too. It's really just that good. Featuring a job class system similar in scope and style to Final Fantasy V, you begin with basic jobs, like the Squire, who unlocks physical classes, and then the Chemist, who unlocks magical classes. Then you level them up as you gain access to advanced jobs and even combination jobs as you outfit your retinue. But each character can also be equipped with secondary skills too. So for example, you'd have a thief with white magic, or a monk able to summon Titan by his side. The possibilities are just endless, and the story is not only unforgettable, but also probably the most adult storyline in the entire Final Fantasy universe. Number 8, The Collection of SaGa. The SaGa series is yet another extremely long-running franchise, and while I don't exactly like a lot of the later entries, I cannot get enough of the first 3 games here. They're really some of the best RPGs ever made, especially the second and third games. First released on the Game Boy as the Final Fantasy Legends series over here in America, they constitute actually the first 3 games in the SaGa series, and they have a ton of replay value. The first 2 games allow you to choose your party members from humans, mutants, monsters, and the second game, robots, as you then go through multiple worlds, solve their problems, and defeat gods along the way. The third game, though, is a radical departure from the rest, and it was actually developed by the same team that created Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, and it plays much more traditionally with 4 different party members who can change their forms by eating meat or installing parts. And instead of going from world to world like you did in the first 2 games, you now soar through time and space to save the world from the pure land-water entity and the fickle gods raining terror upon the land. Number 7, Lunar 1 and 2 Collection. Hey, it's another twofer! And if you've been a fan from my channel for a hot minute, then you should know that I love me some Lunar! These are both traditional turn-based RPGs with a slight tactical combat system, kinda similar to Popol Croix or Trails in the Sky, and they have that quintessential working designs humor that I love so much. Each of them take place in the world of Lunar, which is essentially like the moon, and the bones of each game are the same, with each having a whimsical world, memorable characters, classic 2D graphics, and plenty of great animated cutscenes, not to mention the songs and the voice acting. That boat song still gives me chills to this day. So if you were a fan of RPGs from days past, then you definitely owe it to yourself to play these 2 fantastic games. Number 6, Final Fantasy IX. This here is such a classic throwback, and it was meant to be. I mean, its tagline was, "The crystals have come back," after all. And thankfully, so did everything else that we just loved about the series, since Square decided to jump off a cliff with Final Fantasy VIII, and they knew that they made a huge mistake and they needed to go on back to the basics, back to a glorious world map set in a fantasy realm and populated by endearing characters harkening back to the first 6 games. I do believe that this actually has my favorite upgrade system, where you learn skills and abilities through the equipment that you have on. There is something to be said for the beauty of simplicity, and that here is what this entry exemplifies. Just beautiful simplicity at its best. Number 5, Dragon Quest V. I love the Dragon Quest series, and Yuji Horii and I may be kindred spirits here, because we both love Dragon Quest V. This game spans the entire lifetime of the hero, but at the same time, it doesn't take a lifetime to get through it all. Like many games on this list, it's kind of fast-paced. And here you begin as a very young child, and you're slowly introduced to the mechanics of the various characters in the world. But then, 10 years pass, and you've grown into a teenager, and you get to see the entire world change in that time period. And then you're also introduced to the monster capturing system, as well as the wagon to hold a whole bunch of party members. And it's even here that you'll choose your wife and get married, as well as travel by ship, before 10 more years pass, and then you have kids. I just love the way that each generation opens up new parts of the world, new forms of transit, as well as new party members insofar as the monsters that you meet, as well as your family members. Number 4, Final Fantasy V. I have played through this game more than any other Final Fantasy game, bar none. I played through it normally, just kind of switching jobs as you get them and checking them out and having some fun. I played through it before where it created a challenge from the get-go, and everybody had to be stuck in their one job that it gave them. I played through it with a 4-job fiesta, which is actually really fun. And I've also played it through over on the Twitch, where I did a random job challenge, and the audience was able to make me randomly roll the dice to force me to change jobs. I just cannot overstate how much replayability this gem has. There are multitudes of hidden secrets, and the silly story has just skyrocketed as one of my absolute favorites in the entire series. There is just joy and beauty in its simplicity. Number 3, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This here is the game that shook me to my core with more curveballs in the World Series. Just when you think that you know what's going on, something else comes around and hits you like a ton of frickin' bricks. This is an emotional roller coaster, and it begins with death, and lots of it, as it centers on a world trapped in a death loop, where the paintress wakes up each year to paint her cursed number and then gommage everyone of that age out of existence. This is one of the first things that you see, followed shortly thereafter by the wholesale slaughter of everybody else on the expedition, and then an attempted suicide. And this is followed up by death, and then more death, and family trauma and struggle and emotional scarring and death. No one is who you actually think they are. Everyone has some secret that they're hiding, and this game is not for the faint of heart, because you definitely need the maturity to handle the subject matter. But if you do, you will love it. Number 2, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake. The first two Dragon Quest games were some of the first RPGs that I've ever played. They were what really introduced me and got me into the genre and began my love affair with it. And while we have had remakes of these two games over the years, they've pretty much just been kind of like balanced tweaks instead of, full-on remakes. But this entry changed all that by introducing a ton of new characters in the first game, along with crests and a brand new party member, ability systems, scrolls, and underwater areas in the second game, in addition to just a whole bunch of other stuff. At this point, there's 1% of the original game there. The rest of it is just a full-on modern remake, and it is spectacular. I was absolutely glued to this for weeks, reliving my childhood, now that I'm in my 40s, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And finally, number 1, Chrono Trigger. This here has been called the best RPG of all time, and for good reason. It is just as good now as it was back when it was first released in 1995, when I played it when I was 13 years old. Nowadays though, it has been released for multiple systems, so it is very easy to access. Not only is the storyline unique, but some of the characters and the battle systems haven't ever really been seen before or since. The story involves Chrono, who gets sucked into a time warp and then sent back into the past, as well as into the future, where he learns that the world is being destroyed in the year 1999 by a planet-eating parasite called Lavos. So of course, he adventures through multiple different eras to put a stop to Lavos and eventually save the world. And while that in and of itself is very compelling, the gameplay really puts it over the top, as each character has their own unique elements, magic, and skills, which they can then combine together into double and even triple techs. The encounters occur on screen directly in the field, and your positioning actually matters, as some techniques will hit a straight line in front of you, or maybe a circle around the enemy. So every single battle is unique and compelling, and you will not be able to put this one down. And if you're really enjoying yourself, and who wouldn't, because this game is just fantastic, you can then move on to the New Game Plus and see all the different endings that it has to offer. So that's it for my 30 best RPGs ever made, and the 30 RPGs that I just love and can play over and over and over again. But now I want to hear from you. Do you agree or disagree? And what are your 30 favorite games? And how would your list differ from mine? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this, please be sure to leave a like, a hype, and a sub. Helps me out a ton. And as always, have a good day.